Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. We're going to have ourselves some fun up in here tonight. Our producer for our show tonight is, of course, the great one himself, the maestro, Mr. Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime Tech Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuned in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are One-on-One Pharmacy and, of course, Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cuz, Shantia Hill McBride, and her lovely team at One-on-One Pharmacy in Nassau and, of course, Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site, oneononepharmacy.com. That's a One-on-One Pharmacy, all one word, all lowercase, .com. The three locations are East Street South. And you know when you go in East Street South, you got to hail my girl Joy. She's the pharmacist and she run things. She'll fix it up for you, whatever you need, she'll fix you up. Trust me. Charles Sanders Highway, my good little cuz Silla, that she will take care of you once you go on Charles Sanders Highway, you know where the numbers building is, where the numbers place, Island Luck building, right in there. One-on-One Pharmacy, tell Silla, Maritime Matters sent you, and she will make sure you get your little something of that little something. That's how she carrying on, and that's how we carrying on. Right, Silla? Well, I know you got me to kill, but you's my girl, man. You know how we go. And then, of course, we got downtown Freeport. That's the one with my big cousin Steph, freshly married, out of the package. Steph. Had a good wedding. Steph, you know I love you, girl. You're my big cuz. And you could give Steph a little kiss for me. And of course, she run things up in there so she could take a little something off that something too. That's Island Care Pharmacy, downtown Freeport. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. Yes, that's us. BMC. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. We do your assessments, we do your plans, we do your audits, we do your implementations, we do all your training, we do your consultants, you name it. Anything ISPS, we got you. That's Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited or BMC. Good night, Auntie May! My Auntie May, all the way up there in Freeport, our number one fan. Auntie May, good night to you, darling. Ah, boy, 92 years and still going strong. Strong. Okay, so a little hype for the day, and I got a story to tell. You all know I have my little stories, right? But anyway, this one is about men's health. Well, I mean, it's really about my health too, eh? Because I'm man. About 3 months ago, I decided to get brave enough to have my medical vitals all done, right? You know, I I took time out because my little sister Evadne, she's a doctor in London. And Evadne always tell me, Glenn, you gotta get yourself checked out. I say, man, Evadne, I'm a healthy man. I run marathon, I do this, I do that. Boy, I run a marathon about 5 years. But anyway, Evadne say, you gotta get yourself checked out, man. You think it's always on the outside. You might feel good, don't mean everything on the inside. You always push it back. Anyway, this time I go to London and I decide, I let Evadne do everything. I say, Evadne, I'm all yours. All the urine, all the blood. Man, they must take but 10 tubes of blood out of me. And she said, all right, I good. We can check all this out. And she checked that out. Before I left to go to mainland Europe, because I'm in England now. England is a big island off from Europe. She gave me the reading for the urine. She said, well, we can do all that right now. I got you with the urine. You're straight. And then, when I came back, about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, Evadne told me, said, boy, your blood works, these readings a little scary here, something ain't right. I said, what you talking about? She tell me my PSA, something to do with my prostate gland. Reading supposed to be under 4.0. And a reading 13.5. I said, what? She said, yeah, that's not normal, so we gotta check in. And I said, well, what I gotta do? So she told me I got to do an MRI. You got to do an MRI so they could get some more details of your prostate, and then they could tell why that is reading like that, right? So she didn't want to jump to no conclusion. She told me, I say you need to worry about nothing, but I'm a little concerned about this reading. Anyway, she arranged for me to do the MRI the next day. Boy, look here. Boy, Evadne got some clout in London, you hear me? She ran her own clinic. Private clinic. She deal with them rich people. I tell her I can't afford a clinic, but since I'm a brother, give me 150% discount and I make her do it, right? And she still ain't charge me nothing. That's my girl. But anyway, Evadne took me the next day to the MRI place. I never do no MRI now. I know how nothing go. I don't go to no doctor. I something like the regular Bahamian man. We just believe ain't nothing supposed to go wrong with us. Anyway, going to do my MRI. Woman asked me, well, Mr. Bain, what kind of music do you listen to? I said, man, y'all ain't get my kind of music over here, man. She said, well, if YouTube got it, I said, I don't know if you can find it. I listen to Teddy. Turn off the lights, boy. She gonna play some Teddy, and I in that machine, and then every 15, 20 minutes they come and check them. I was in there for about almost an hour doing that MRI scan of my prostate area, right? So anyway, that was well good. I was done, and I wasn't being in London. So the reading Evadne didn't get until I was already back in Nassau, because I only had another day or two in London. I came back to Nassau and she called me, and then she sent me a copy. She said, boy, I had one or two of my friends look at this. They what do you call it, urologists or something like that, doctor comrades. No, they don't call them comrades. What do we call them? Colleague. My colleagues look at it, and they said to me, well, your brother's situation is not dire. He has an enlarged prostate. But, fortunately enough, his prostate doesn't have any masses. So, yes, no trace of cancer, no nothing. He good. Just that he has an enlarged prostate. So she told me, boy, that ain't good news, because when your prostate gets so big, it does cause problems somewhere down the line. You need to see if you could see a urologist in the Bahamas. And I did that. I saw a urologist in the Bahamas. And should I call his name? I need to call his name. Everybody know him, right? And I saw him, and Evadne my sister wrote a cover letter with all the test results from the urine, the blood, the MRI, everything. And she told him what has happened so far. And he sat down and he talked with me. I thought I was going to get a test. I had to take nothing off, and he had to touch me. And he told me straight and plain, he said, well, Captain Bain, you did the right thing. I said, now we know. And he read it, and he said, I know your situation. You don't have nothing to worry about. He said, because we could fix your little problem. I said, my little problem? He said, yeah. He said, your prostate is enlarged. He said, but now, when men get over 40, their prostate start to grow. And it grows and it grows, and it does not stop growing while you're living. So any man who 80 years old has a huge prostate. He said, well, you're only in your early 60s, so but he said a prostate happened to be just like your height. He said some people grow to be 5'1", some people grow to be 6'1", some people grow 7'1". He said, and none of those heights have any implication on their health. They could all be healthy, or any one of them could develop a sickness, another two, okay. So the height doesn't mean you could be sickly. He says your big prostate don't mean that it's gonna be sick or get cancer. He said, as a matter of fact, I'm looking at all these figures, and you are out of 100%, you are less than 2% chance for cancer. He said, you don't have to worry about cancer. Boy, he make me feel so good. He said, but we got to reduce the size of the spine. But doctor he say no. But eventually, because of the size, you can remember it wraps around your urethra. And the fact that your urethra may be impacted by that size, we need to bring it back down to normal size. He say, and so in that regard, you need to take, I recommend this Avadat. And this tablet within 3 months should bring your prostate about half the size it is now. And so long, he said, if you stop taking it, it can grow back up again. So you can keep taking this. So you're on this one for life. I said, well, doc, if that's what I need to do to stave away big problems, then let's do that. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And I am saying this story because I saw a lot of clips about men's health, prostate tests for $30, for $20, for free. I saw a lot of that recently. And I know I don't need to be tested because I just got tested about 3 months ago. And then I did an MRI, which kind of showed, man, but look here, us men, and I know a lot of men listen to the show. So us men, we need to make sure we know our status with our prostate, especially if you're over 40. Now, if you're under 40, you're good. But if you, and he told me, he said, boy, I tell you one thing, we talking about we going downhill. He said, once you reach 40, you're going downhill because 40 years up, everything else down. So if you pass 80, you're good. But at the end of the day, as you get older, and the doctor tell me this, he say, we develop things that happen that comes with age, like everything else. He said, just like the trees, just like the animals. After a while, you develop, slowly get slower, this and that. So you got to watch your health as you get older. And so I just say that to say this. I didn't mean to really open up with my health issues, right? Because I ain't really got none. I kind of had mine arrested. But some of you out there may have some issues. Men, that if you get tested, you will find that you could catch it in time like I did. I have a friend named Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell was on the show on 2 occasions already. He used to work for fisheries, a big-time fisheries officer, and Wendell Clark. And he's currently hospitalized in the U.S. And I spoke with him a couple of times, and he is going through basically this men health issue with his prostate and his kidney. Of course, the bladder was in the middle there too, right? But they kind of have him under control, but he didn't have a clue. And being him talk about it, he was shocked that I was experiencing a similar thing, or I was diagnosed with a similar thing, but I caught it before it started to become a challenge for me. And so, I say, Mr. Wendell, be encouraged, my brother. Me and you go way back. I want you to get the best. And the treatment he's getting, he's in a hospital in the U.S., and it's a local hospital. It ain't costing him nothing because it's children. He got a son who makes sure he was straight. And, oh, man. Men, all men under the sound of my voice, please do your best to go and get tested for prostate in particular. Just go and do your urine work and blood work. And if they detect anything, they can tell you, well, okay, now you need to do an MRI so we can see what's going on. And then say, what's wrong with knowing what's going on with yourself? Your prostate inside you. your bladder inside, your kidney inside. You ain't know what's going on with them until you do some blood work, which will determine that something is wrong in those areas. Eh? You could feel as healthy as you want, and like me, I still feel dead healthy, but I'm glad I did it. Anyway, you are listening to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. Tonight, we will revisit the topic surrounding shanty towns in our country. We shall also engage the discussion on the U.S. Embassy opting to process Haitian visas in Nassau. So the discussion surrounding these hot topics should include the following: shanty town demolitions. The dailies tell us last week that the time is closing in on the demolition activities for Montgomery Avenue, Shantytown. And then it came back and say, okay, we can hold off on that for a minute. And I personally, I believe probably because of all this rain we're having and this and that, yeah, must have some issues getting the machines out and all the rest of that, right? But we know that there were some people living in, you saw it on the news, on ZNS News in the night and the TV news we just watch. Say, they ain't going nowhere. They ain't got nowhere to go. They ain't got nowhere to go, so they ain't going nowhere. If they don't break them down, they got to break them down. That's, well, maybe I putting it a bit too harshly, right? But the crux of it is they are saying that they really ain't gonna move their stuff. So where does that leave our authorities? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Hasty Farms in North Andros is another shanty town. 80 homes were given or issued the 28-day notice that in 28 days we coming to break this down because these were not built to building code specs. These were not built under any authorized permit system. So these got to break down. And when the authorities got there, almost 20 of the residents fled. They break off running. They held 3 that were undocumented, and they arrested those 3. Now, I don't know what they could do with the said they arrest. As far as they're concerned, I wouldn't even touch them. But you can arrest them. Yeah, they do. You ain't got to arrest them, you know. We need to stop looking at catching the undocumented migrants. Let them leave them, let them run loose, do what they want to do. Because when we arrest them, we got to now put them in a detention center and feed them and take care of them and pay for them to go back home and all the rest of that. But if we leave them alone, they can feed themselves and take care of themselves, and then they can sue us because we mistreat them or maltreat them in the detention center. And guess what else? We need to deal with whoever might employ them. Because if they can't wait, my brother, they can find their own money to get out of Dodge. And that's the mentality I have toward this whole thing. We need to deal with the people who hire them the law so you can charge them $3,500 a time, fine them, and or put them in jail for 2 years. And I still say put them in jail for 1 day. Let them feel for themselves for a little while. And once the rest realize, boy, they can lock you up or they can lock you up and fine you, you know what can happen? It'll be very, very difficult for an undocumented person in this country to get hired, because who could take the risk of getting locked up for them? But the people who hiring them have no fear, because our authorities ain't checking. So who we can blame for that? We can blame the undocumented migrant for being here trying to make a living, or we can blame the shop or hotel or restaurant or fish fry operation or gas station who hire them, are we going to deal or blame our authorities who sit idly by and allow the gas station to hire undocumented workers, allow the hotel to have landscapers doing the landscape for the hotel who are undocumented, to allow the food stores to have cashiers and packing boys who are undocumented? Who you blame? We got to blame the people who are supposed to enforce the law or impose that law. And yes, they have a law for the undocumented worker, but they got a bigger law for the one who employed them. Now, if you get all these employers shaking in their boots because they done see 2 or 3 year lockup, excuse me, what you think happened? You think the rest of them could just take that risk? Man, they'll go in high school and try to start finding Bahamians to hire who documented, properly documented. Not just have a passport that says Haitian, because you know you got Bahamas passports, and then they say nationality, the person they say Haitian. I want you to know, I've seen some. So you got to have either a work permit specifically for what that job is, not gardening and stuff like that, or you got to have a Bahamas passport saying that you are Bahamian. And then the person who hire you wouldn't be no problem. But we got to go after these employers. And we know why they're doing it. You know, and I know, and all of you know why they're doing it. Because they can hire those undocumented migrants for far less than they can hire us for. And now we, the Bahamian people, who could take that cashier job, who could take that pumping boy job, we ain't gonna take it because we know that the amount of money these people won't pay for that. Even in meeting minimum wage in some cases. And when a meeting minimum wage, it's minimum wage, and you can't survive off minimum wage in this country, and we all know that. But if these employers are forced, like they are by law, to hire only documented personnel, then they have to start paying what they're supposed to pay. Because some of these employers making hundreds of millions of dollars and don't even want to pay minimum wage. And that's what's going on in our country. And I agree, minimum wage needs to go up. I say you people do, you know. But I'll never pay somebody minimum wage. I'd rather not have that job. If I got to hire somebody, pay them minimum wage to do a job. I can't pay them much more than that if the business I in. Security, come on, man. Only so much you could get for that. But still, we need in this country to understand the lesser among us still have to survive. The lesser among us should not be taken advantage of. And when I say taken advantage of, I'm not talking about the undocumented people who get this mash up. I don't want the set who have rights to be here and have rights to be on your job, but still have a family to maintain. The lesser among us. We making a whole heap of money, want to give them peanuts. And I can preach this till the cows come home. We all know this the way it is in this country. And we all need to be a part of fixing that. So we start by demolishing these shanty towns. Because these shanty towns harvest undocumented migrants that live off the fat of the land. They're the first ones in the hospital, baby. They're the first one to work for little or nothing. And they're the ones who, whatever they make, they're trying to send home. So when they live in the shanty town and only paying $100 a month, and they're not living in a proper apartment where they got to pay $300-400 each per month, because you know apartments ain't cheap these days. But at least spend some of that money which you're making, but you shouldn't be making in our country. If you want to be here, live right. Don't live in places that are illegal because you won't pay peanuts. At least try to live in a proper place for this place. You're in a different country. Mind you, we allow you to do it. Because as far as I know, the government of this country know where every single shanty town is. And I know we skating around, breaking out, because we got a couple of them that are down. Cool Acres it got light of fire in that dam, but I think Superman, Mr. Clay Sweet must get in after that anyhow, right? Then they had the one All Saints Way or wherever that is. I think they take half of that down because I understand half still there. Then they had the one out Coral Harbor in the bush somewhere, and I understand all of that ain't down, but at least we could say that this Philip Brave Davis administration took down some shanty towns. And based on the information we have here, they are preparing and positioning themselves to take down some more shanty towns. So I don't care what you say. I don't know of no administration in the past that arranged and made arrangements to take down shanty town. I think there was one. I take that back. I think my good friend, just like my brother, the former MP Shane Gibson. Shane Gibson was able to take down, and he gets plenty flack for it. And I don't know why people can give Shane flack and they ain't give nobody else flack. They just don't like Shane, right? But Shane is my boy. Shane is like my brother, right? And Shane took cause to come down the shanty town there off Carmichael Road. What corner that is, boy? The one opposite Golden Gate Church, right? In the back there where they have that government complex now. That was a shanty town. And he gone in the back, then he roughed things up, and he created the government housing project. We should have done that with all the shanty towns. Well, not necessarily put a government project, but get them down. We don't want, Bahamians can't do it. Why we allow the undocumented people to come and do it? But I mean, I know why, because we slack. Our immigration authorities, they only deal with people who come to hawk and sell. They don't go out there to do nothing. I know they used to go out there early in the morning to harass the Haitian and Jamaican and whatever else. When they come out in the morning to catch the truck to go on the construction site, well, why didn't they go to the construction site 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock and deal with them there? Plus, deal with the people who hire them. Lock up some of them. I must be running to what? And last on this shantytown demolition topic. I'm coming back late, boy. I'm looking at my time going fast. The dailies is talking about 7 Haitians that were convicted for overstaying. They caught them in 8 Mile Rock area, Grand Bahama. And they charged them, and I think they have them set to be deported. Again, 7. If you got 100,000 undocumented migrants here today, why you can fool with them 7? We need to find a way to make these migrants want to get out of here. Because if they can't wait, they won't be here. You think they're here because they like you and me? You think they're here because they don't like Haiti? No, sir. These people love Haiti. And if Haiti could give them the kind of money they're making right now, they'll go back to Haiti 10 times faster than they'll come here. But they're trying to make it better for them, and I don't blame them. I had to do the same thing if I was in their shoe. I want to make, if I could make a better opportunity by going to another country, of course I'll do it. I mean, if things are going to rat seed in my country, of course. So people, we don't want to focus on who they convicting and sending out. We don't want to focus on who they capturing and putting in detention center. We don't want to focus on the ones who waken to the gas station, who waken to the food store, who waken doing landscaping for hotels and all the rest of that. I wouldn't talk about construction because they're big up in that too. What we want to talk about is what are the authorities doing about the employers who hiring them. That's where we need to go. When last one of them get locked up? It's clear enough. $3,500 a time plus 2 years in jail. I ain't worrying about the money. I want to know when last one of them or whenever one of them ever get locked up. I hope somebody could call into the show today and tell me, enlighten me, how that going. So, that's topic number one, the shantytown demolitions. Before I go to topic number two, we need to dash the break bad. So please, be sure to stay tuned as we delve into discussion on these maritime issues. We're talking maritime, people. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer for the night, Mr. Craig Gibson. At this point, we move to our first break. When we return, we will engage tonight's maritime discussions in more depth. Listen, people, you do not want to miss this one.
There's highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Love 97 FM, the Bahamas. And on the World Wide Web at www.love97fm.com.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, our producer for the night, the vulnerable himself, Mr. Craig Gibson. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 17:05, that's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The primary purpose of our show is to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international feeds. The phone number to reach us, should you wish to get in on the discussions during the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. To hear a replay of the show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Like I love you, Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to your YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box Maritime Matters Bahamas, and you will see a litany of our shows appear. So let's talk maritime. As we continue on our hot topics, as you know, we've done the shantytown demolitions, right? We talk about the demolition set for Montgomery Avenue. We talk about the 80 homes that got the 28-day notice in North Andros at Hasty Farms, the 20 residents who break off running and the tree that they held. and we talk about migrants being hired in the Bahamas, undocumented, and continue to happen, but nobody paying the price. The people who hiring them are just getting away with it because, of course, they want to pay less. They won't pay the Bahamians what they should be paying them. So they grab the undocumented migrants and say, man, that's what I get paid. That's how I go. Because our authorities don't lock none of them up. They had 7 Haitians convicted, overstayed in 8 Mile Rock. Again, we ain't trying to convict no Haitians here. We ain't trying to lock them up in no detention center and find money to ship them out. What we trying to do? We trying to lock up the people who employing them. Because if they can't find employment, unless they do it the proper way, then they don't want to be here. If they can't live in those shanty towns, where they only paying 10% of what really they will be paying if they have to live in proper homes, like us, then they may not want to be here. So, our authorities need to go to work. That's how I see it. Now, we have a situation where, the number to call, 326-8255. I know I told you, but I want to tell you again and again and again, because we want you involved in this discussion. We don't want to just run on all day, and you listening, but you have nothing to offer to say, oh, well, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. Oh, I know some people over here, they doing the same thing you're talking about. The authorities need to look into that. Oh, what? Do you have a brother or a sister or a cousin that works for the immigration department? Call them up and ask them to give us a call. Find out why they ain't locked up in the past umpteen years one person for hiring an undocumented man. Because I know they know some of these people. I know they know some of these places. But they just wouldn't lift a finger to do something about it. And these people continue to hire them, when they can start locking these people up, like the Immigration Act said they're supposed to do. The U.S. Embassy is set, I think, for October 1st to process Haitian visas in Nassau. Now, most recently, they said the government, the Davis administration, is reviewing the U.S. decision to do such processing here in Nassau. They previously said they will not allow Haitians entry in order to be processed or to apply for visa in Nassau. In other words, if a Haitian shows up at the airport and they say, come to apply for visa, the government say, we ain't letting them in. Excuse me, I'm not sure that's cool, right? I don't think that's cool. Because I think you and I would know that to apply for a U.S. visa, you don't just show up and go to the U.S. Embassy to say, I come to apply for a visa. You don't do that. You have to have your appointment arranged online, and you should have something to show that you're coming for an interview for a visa. As a matter of fact, I think you just have to pay ahead of time. So, in my opinion, if a Haitian is coming from Haiti with that booking, with that they have the the reservation or whatever to go into the American embassy, why should we not allow them in to do so, knowing the condition in Haiti as we speak? The American embassy down there cannot be operating as normal. So why should that be a problem for us if that person coming? To mind you, we got 3 planes a week, I understand, coming loaded with people who have less than an appointment to get a U.S. visa. Because just anybody ain't gonna get the appointment to get a U.S. visa. you gotta pass certain hurdles for them to even give you an appointment to be interviewed for visa. And we Bahamians know that. The Jamaicans know that. The Trinidadians and the Antiguans and the people in Barbados, everybody in the world know that. You don't just get a U.S. visa just like that. And the U.S. said already that only certain categories of people out of Haiti will even be considered. So they're not going to give them that appointment. So why are we making such a big deal out of this? I can't see it. And then you hear the officials, the U.S. officials from the embassy are stating that, but we've been doing this for years. Haitians were always coming to us to apply for the visas, to be interviewed for the visas. This ain't nothing new. Not because we have a new embassy that looks so spanking and pretty, meaning we wasn't doing this at the old one. So what are we up in arms about? Why is this all of a sudden such a big deal? I remember when I was a ship manager. I used to manage some ships going between here in the States, but we had a ship with almost only well at least 80% of the crew were Filipinos, eh? And I learned at that time that the Filipino crew, when his visa is about to expire, or if it expired already and we bring them in here to work on that ship and they got to be going in and out of the U.S., they would go to the Bahamas, the American embassy in Nassau, and get it renewed. As a matter of fact, I was told that even if you in the U.S., and you a non-U.S. citizen or resident, and your visa expires, you cannot get that renewed unless you leave the U.S. and go to a U.S. embassy outside of the country. This was my experience. So my thing is, all nationalities, even the people, the crew on those cruise ships, no matter where they're from, they wait till that cruise ship come to the Bahamas, well, to Nassau, because that's where the embassy is. And they go to the U.S. embassy while the cruise ship is in Nassau to renew their C1D visa, their seaman visa, because they can't do it in the U.S. So we need to understand something, my brothers and sisters. That American embassy, just like any other embassy in the Bahamas, they're not there for Bahamians. Yes, they accommodate Bahamians, and I think on a priority basis. But that's the American embassy. They're there for all nationalities who want to engage visas for America and things. I'm dealing with them. That's what that's for. That ain't put there for the Bahamians. So if they say they're gonna process Haitians and Jamaicans and everybody else as far as visas are concerned, why are we worried? Why are we getting in that? Why we can say to the person coming in our country to engage the American embassy, oh, we're not going to let you through. Oh, I don't believe in that. Yeah, we know we got some issues with undocumented Haitians and the way they come in and all that. But hey, we got a flight coming in 3 times a week, eh? Are these people being processed to the extent that you want to put a stop to those who have an appointment with the American embassy? 326-8255. Feel free to call. We ain't got much time left, only about half hour. So that is what's going on with the embassy and the Haitian visas in Nassau and all the rest of that. Now, we move to our next topic. Excuse me much. enforcement of marine pilots' mandate to increase employment. Let me talk about enforcement of marine pilots' mandate. Very recently, for the 1st of September, after months of discussions, dialogue, engagements, negotiations, etc., with the cruise ships that have private islands in our country. And we know where they are. The Carnivals, Norwegian Cruise Lines, RCCL, Disney. Who else? That's all for now. I think it's only 4 of them that actually have private islands here, right? And MSC as well, that's 5. But they're the biggest 5 in the world anyway, right? So after all of this discussion with them, the government decide that for many decades now, you guys been operating your own ships coming in and out of your private island. But when you go to Nassau, you got to take a pilot. When you go to Freeport, you got to take a pilot. And according to our law, you're supposed to take a pilot wherever you go in this country. Plain and simple and fair. Fair. Because in the real world meaning first world countries, you cannot carry your ship in any of their ports or any private island in their country without taking a pilot. You know how easy it is for that cruise ship operator, the captain, staff captain, chief mate, and safety officer and all of them, for them to take that ship into Miami. Miami is one straight shot. They ain't got to duck no shallow water. They ain't got no tight turn to make. But guess what? They will not dare try to take any of those ships into Miami Harbor without a pilot. Why? Why? Because piloting that ship is a part of the commerce for that country. The U.S. is not going to allow you to bring a ship into the U.S. without taking a pilot, because now you keeping them out of some money. So why is it that for decades you was able to bring your ship into a Bahama island, which you might own, I don't care, own it, but not take a pilot, not pay that money? That's a commerce exercise. Our pilots ain't there to tell you how to take your ship to Castaway Key or Coco Key or Lighthouse Point. He ain't trying to show you how to do that, because that's a straight shot. You know how to do that. We know you know. But give us a little thing we supposed to have when you bring your ship here, that you pay whenever you go in the real world. So that's all these discussions and negotiations and all the rest of that was all about. The commerce part of it. And I hear these pilots, some of them young and don't know what they're saying, right? And I know them, but I also know that they're young and don't know what they're saying sometimes. I hear them talking about how, the government make them do it now because in the past we didn't have enough pilots and so we had to wait till we get enough. What enough pilots for what? Where did we get pilots from to do these jobs? Did we create pilots for these jobs? Do we have more pilots today than we had 2 years ago? This kind of thing? No! Same amount of pilots. If the government had mandated this 10 years ago, we would have found pilots to do this 10 years ago. Because this is not a technical thing to do. This is a commerce exercise. Don't try to fool nobody. 326-825. I want any pilot to call me, tell me that in any case. Now, it's a pilot, so you can't talk to me unless you know what you're saying. But don't be spreading that foolishness. But the government couldn't do it before now. The government could have done it 20 years ago. And I could show you documents where I put it to the government to have it done 20 years ago, and they ignored it. So if you don't know what's going on, you just reach your mouth wide, you just still got milk on your mouth, watch what you're saying. Because it is not so. And Glenn Bain tell you that. 326-8255. I wish one of y'all would call right now and tell me otherwise. Anyway, I'm looking for no row. Of course, when you say that there's an expansion in the piloted services, that is true. But don't say they expanded the amount of pilots, because that's not true. We decided to use some pilots part-time. Let's call it what it is, which I don't have a problem with that. Because that whole thing was just too big to fail. We couldn't afford for this country to not provide the pilots when the 1st of September reached. So we galvanize based on the pilot, but now we get the opportunity to create more pilots for these services so that we can have full-time operation going on with that, eh? So yes, Senior Commander Brian Wright, the port controller, and Minister Jobette Colby Davis, the Minister of Transport. Well, it's energy and transport, but it's the transport side where this had to be done, eh? They were able to do what wasn't done for about 30 years now. I didn't say it couldn't be done. It was not done. Because I don't think nobody's pressing for it. Like I say, I wrote 20 years ago that we need more pilots because we need to take these ships in these ports. And the government just brushed it aside, according to who telling them, I guess, or how it's being told. But after we started this talk show 3 years ago, I started to charge that these cruise ships are getting away with this murder. They are piloting their own cruise ships in these private ports. And by way of this talk show, the message got out that we could do something about this. So I don't want these young pilots with milk around their mouth thinking this thing just happened out of the blue. Because it didn't. The good thing about it is it happened. And some of the milky mouth pilots were able to assist in making it happen. And I thank them for that. But don't get out of your breeches. Stay in your place. Know what's going on. Don't just go out there and talking things that ain't true. So here it is. We have more pilotage work, which means you need more pilot boats, need more pilot boat crew, they need more fuel, they need to be fed, and all the rest of that comes along with this mandate that the minister and the port controller made happen. And they can say what they want to say about them too. I can tell you, history will reflect that they were the two that made it happen. What about the implementation of the local safety certificate that is needed to increase the safety and the employment in the maritime sector of this country? And I say that with deliberation. I say that deliberately. I say it I'm deliberately, because the entity responsible by law is the Bahamas Maritime Authority. And by not doing this, let me tell you what's going on. By not doing this, our country suffers. We're suffering because we ain't got nothing to eat. We're suffering because this is an area where we could have far more employment than these new pilot jobs, where we could cause our professional maritime young people to become inspectors, to become small boat surveyors, to become large ship inspectors, and to do inspections worldwide. Like we have my friend Theo Devaney doing now, Herbie Bain doing now, that I would have been doing if I wasn't doing this ISPS stuff. Because we got a whole defense force where the three of us came from, burgeoning with potential, just waiting on the opportunity to be exposed. That's it. We got a lot of young mariners, just like those pilots. They went off to marine school and they got their third mate license and yada yada yada. Now, one thing with them pilots, they just don't like when they say this, right? But a lot of them, they don't know what it is to drive no boat, because they only been on big ships. They never sail as no captain to handle no ship, no boat, no nothing. They learn, and some of them still don't know, you know. They manage to get the boats, the ships in, but they don't really know what they're doing. And I know some of them. And you can see the difference between the ones who drive small boats as captains, like the fellow who wake as a commanding officer in the defense force and he had to drive his own boat. Like the fellow who wake with marine tankers and he had to drive those tankers in and out of all these different ports around the Bahamas and neighboring countries. Like the fellow who wake as a tugboat captain and then became a pilot afterwards. These people understand maneuvering vessels because they had to do it in order to maneuver their vessel. But these little clowns who think they know what they're doing, coming out of maritime school, never personally handled a ship in their life, but they just do it over and over and over again until they see how it's done, and they sometimes scrape out from getting in problems. They're ready. Now, some of them could do it. Some of them learn to do it just by being on the job watching big ship maneuvers. But they could never be as good as the fellow who used to captain a vessel and handle and maneuver that vessel himself. Yeah, they got the big talk. But don't bring that around me, because I could teach you a thing or two. I didn't go to maritime school. I could never go. I got children who went. But I drive many ships. I drive many small boats and big ships. So don't come to me with that kind of talk, because I know better. Now, let me get off these pilots' case, because some of them really think they're good, but they ain't ready, right? But then we have some very good ones. I must tell you, we got some of the best in the world. We got some very good ones. So don't think Glenn Bain saying, oh, we ain't got no pilots who know they do. No, we got a good handful of pilots who know exactly what they're doing, and they're extremely good. But that don't apply to all of them. And sometimes the ones who make the most noise ain't got a clue. And I know. So I could tell you. Don't let me start calling names. Oh, we don't call names on the show. I just remember that. So I want to get back into this local safety certificate. But before we do so, we can move to our final break. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Biggity Bain. That's what they probably can call me tonight. I don't care. Our producer for the night is the great Mr. Craig Gibson. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall return very shortly.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Love 97 FM. Love 97 FM. Often imitated, never duplicated.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer for the night, Mr. Craig Gibson. The number to call if you want to reach us while the show is going on is 326-8255. Again, that's 326-8255. To hear a replay of the show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page, Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like I love you. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box, Maritime Matters Bahamas. You will see the litany of our shows just pop up. And you can feel free to listen to any of them at any time. And for recap, we started out the show, well, talking about some prostate issues with men. And then we talked a little bit about my prostate issues, Mr. Wendell prostate issues. And we went on to speak about the demolition of shanty towns. We talked about how we had quite a few cool acres, someplace with that one name, All Saints Way, and the one near Coral Harbor, I forget what they call that. Those houses, a lot of houses were taken down in those areas. And most recently, notices were given to the ones on Montgomery Avenue to be demolished, I think yesterday. Anyway, apparently there was a lot of rainfall or some reason why it didn't happen, right? But we're still watching. We can make sure that those homes, because the people are a little biggity. They say, boy, I think I'm moving out. I think I have to take this down. I'm sure I can try to move over here. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm sure the government is going to stick to their guns and ensure that those buildings that were not built to building code specs are taken down. We talk about the Hasties Farm in North Andros. There's a shanty town there too. And they have over 80 homes that were issued the 28-day notice. And of course, when officials got there, a good handful of them flee. I understand they probably ran off because they probably wasn't documented and they didn't want to get catch and all the rest of that. 3 of them were caught. And I don't know what we could do with them. Probably put them in a detention center. But, you know, my view on that, they shouldn't have to go into a detention center. We shouldn't even run behind them. We need to stop the employers from hiring them. We need to start locking up some of these employers. And I don't think we can worry about that problem no more. Now, following through is pertinent. We should have no more festering of violation going on in our towns. Our towns, meaning Nassau, Freeport, Abercrombie, Luttra. And you know, these undocumented migrants normally spring up shanty towns in areas where there's a lot of commerce. There's a lot of money being made. They won't get in on some of the money, so next thing you know, they got shanty town. Instead of them just coming like we come normally in rent apartment or you know, pay the fair share, they won't go in the bush and spring up something they ain't got to pay no money for. And we supposed to swallow that. But this administration is saying, hey, not on our watch. And I hope that whatever next administration comes in, whether it be the same administration repeating or they have another administration take over, this continues. We continue to rid this country of shanty towns. As a matter of fact, I hope all be gone before that, because we got a whole next year to go. And since the government know where all of them are, I think it'll be a good idea for the government just take them all down. That's what Glenn Bain think. Any of y'all who did listening, ain't none of y'all got no brother or sister on immigration, this way immigration uniform. Because, I mean, if they're embarrassed, you all should be embarrassed for them. You wouldn't even call and say nothing. All this foolishness going on in this country. 326-8255. Call ma. You talk about the 7 Haitians that were convicted very recently in 8 Mile Rock. I think it was last week. They were convicted for overstaying their time. Now, when you say overstaying your time, that means these people came in through the airport and was given a certain amount. And these ain't who sneaking on boat or undocumented, you know. These, the classy set. Well, you know, half of them ain't coming to go back. Well, maybe more than half. I don't know. They ain't coming here to go back anyhow. But okay. We ain't trying to stop the planes from bringing them. Because we're responsible for them being documented to begin with. We're responsible for them having the documentation to clear immigration on the way in here on those planes. They ain't give themselves those work permits and whatever status they coming in on, you know. That had to happen from here. Okay, so we start locking up some employers, and boy, we can be watching. And we'll see where that go. The U.S. Embassy decided that they will continue processing Haitian visas in Nassau. You see, we saw the big building. We say, oh, they want to start processing Haitian. No, they was always doing it, even with the little building. Through the corner there by McDonald's. They was processing them for decades. So it wasn't a problem then, and I don't see how it could be a problem now. That U.S. Embassy is really there for non-U.S. personnel to make application for whatever. And in the Bahamas, they have no running, nothing to do with that. So if our government will say, oh, well, if somebody want to go to the U.S. Embassy, they come in here, let's go to the U.S. Embassy. Suppose someone flying from Europe. Say they come in here because they want to go to the U.S. Embassy and get their visa. We could tell them they can't enter the country to do that. Because if we want to say that to the Haitians, we need to say that to everybody. In my opinion. Because I tell you, I remember those days when those cruise ship workers used to, in droves, And ask any agent, they'll tell you, the agent used to even assist them. Going into the U.S. Embassy and trying to get back to their ship before they leave with their visa renewal in their hand. We talk about enforcement of marine pilots. The mandate that the government made to the cruise lines to ensure that whenever they come in the Bahamas, wherever they go, they must have a pilot on board. Because they were taking pilots everywhere else except on their private islands. But now, no matter where they go, they must have a pilot on board. Good stuff. Kudos to the Minister of Energy and Transport, Honorable Jobet Kobe Davis. Kudos to the Port Controller, Senior Commander Brian Wright. Now, let's get on the BMA case. We got, 15 minutes left? Oh man, time rolling. We're talking about implementing the local safety certificate as mandated by the Merchant Shipping Act. The Merchant Shipping Act say any vessel that is non-SOLAS is required to issue a local safety certificate. Now, what is non-SOLAS? Non-SOLAS means the SOLAS convention don't apply to that vessel. Okay, I talk in gibberish, right? Some of y'all don't know what SOLAS is. SOLAS is the acronym for Safety of Life at Sea. Excuse me. And under the IMO, there's a convention. IMO is the International Maritime Organization, responsible for all these big ships going around the world. There's a convention, the first convention they have is the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, the SOLAS Convention. And that applies to any ship that is doing international voyages. If they're going to be carrying passengers, more than 12 passengers for hire. And it also applies to any ship doing trade, cargo. Any type of cargo, liquid cargo, dry bulk, containerized cargo, any kind of cargo. Because if you ain't carrying people, whatever else you can is cargo. So it applies to all cargo ships on international voyages once they are over 500 gross tons. 500 gross tons. So if a ship is doing international voyage, but they less than 500 gross tons, that's not a SOLAS ship. If a vessel is not doing an international voyage, that is not a SOLAS ship. And if you look at our mail boats, our fishing boats, all these private owned yachts that Bahamians have, they are non-SOLAS vessels. And they should all be issued a local safety certificate from or on behalf of the Bahamas Maritime Authority. Now, how is the BMA going to cause all these non-SOLAS vessels to be able or be required to attain or receive that local safety certificate? They do it the way they deal with their big ships, eh? How do they deal with their big ships? What you mean? Do it like how they do with their big ships. They identify authorized nautical inspectors domestically that has the background and the capacity to do what you call small boat surveys. So they go to a small boat and they make sure that that boat has the proper radio equipment. They make sure the boat has the appropriate safety equipment like life raft and life jackets and firefighting equipment and stuff like that. And they make sure that they issue the load line, which ensures that all the hatches and everything on the boat are properly, have proper seals and they're checked on time and the hinges are right and things like that, right? Then they deal with the hull. They make sure that vessel is dry docked at least twice in every 5-year period. If they're carrying passengers. Once if they don't carry passengers. At least once in every 5 years, taken out of the water, and not only dry dock, but have a dry dock survey that is done by the same authorized nautical inspector or another one. And that survey says that, yes, this hull is sound for another 5 years. The bearings in the shaft have been pulled and the clearance is fine, even if they wasn't pulled. The bearings in the rudders, the sea chest, all the filters. So anything at the bottom of that vessel that leads on the inside of the vessel or to the outside of the vessel from the inside is need to be reassured and verified. And all of this comes up in this dry dock survey, because the survey will be so many pages that was devised for or by the Bahamas Maritime Authority. The survey of the vessel itself, the annual surveys, had to be devised by or for the Bahamas Maritime Authority. And they're dealing with professional inspectors and small boat surveyors, people who they recognize and know that can do the work. Like myself, like Herbie Payne, like Theo Devaney, and I'm sure there's more. Because almost every captain of a vessel in the Defense Force, every captain of the vessels in Marine Tankers Operation, I know the name now, you all must, some people know. Every chief engineer would know how to follow and properly conduct a small boat survey, because you could do courses to become a small boat surveyor. So that ain't no big deal. You could do courses to do a dry dock survey. But of course you need to have the background first. You need to be somebody who used to sail on a vessel. Can't be like them fellas who learn to be pilots but they never run a boat. You sail on a vessel where you serve as safety officer. You serve as engineering officer. You know what it is for this boat to run. You know what the safety requirements are. You know what all the measures and why because you have to wait by those. And these are the people that should be targeted to be local surveyors for everything, dry dock, and these are the people who you would make authorized nautical inspectors for the purpose of issuing the local safety certificate that you could use when you have two boats collide out there, or a boat and jet ski collide out there, and you need to do a casualty investigation. These people would be the people who could go out there and figure out what went wrong, why this accident happened, what we need to do to ensure that this isn't repeated by another jet ski and boat out there. And then we wouldn't have to be in the predicament we're in, where we having all these accidents at sea, and we having all these people dying from accidents at sea, and we don't have the first report to say what went wrong. And that's where we need to go with this local safety certificate, Mr. BMA. So if you keep hauling off and refusing to put this in place, you hauling up Bahamians in this country from moving forward in maritime. I know you don't care. Oh, I used to work with you all. I know you all don't care. but no Bahamians moving forward in maritime. You all only want to see foreigners moving forward in maritime. You all even want Bahamian boat owners to be registered under the Bahamas Maritime Authority flag. Our boat owners got to go to Mexico and Belize and Vanuatu, and I know. Because they come to me and tell me BMA don't even want to register them. The Bahamas Maritime Authority don't want Bahamian-owned vessels to carry the Bahamas flag. And I know why. Well, I mean, but if they manage them properly and they cause this local safety certificate to be issued, where you will now have qualified crew running these boats. You will have surveys done on these boats, and the boats will be up to standard because they got to be maintained in order to get the local safety certificate. Because the port department ain't going to register them unless they have a valid local safety certificate. And that's how they're supposed to work. And that's going to cause a lot of our young maritime professionals to be exposed to surveying small boats. And the more they do it, the better they get. And then they do more courses. And then eventually, you could start using them to do the Caribbean Code Safety Certificate surveys. Because that is basically the same thing, eh? Except they have a code to go by that they could read and learn how to do it and all the rest of that. And then they could start doing Caribbean Code inspection, not only for the vessels in the Bahamas that want to go to Florida, but vessels in the region. And there's no reason why the Bahamas maritime professionals can't take over the region. You know, we got a lot of sea. We got a lot of people who have certification from SUNY Maritime, from Cal Maritime, from Mass Maritime, and some even from Kings Point. I was surprised to find that out. Kings Point, the creme de la creme for maritime professionals. But we don't utilize them here because the BMA is not allowing these doors to open to these people as small boat surveyors that can eventually move into Caribbean Code surveyors, that could eventually move into what? Flag inspectors of ships that belong to the Bahamas Maritime Authority. You know, we got over 1,600 ships carrying our flags that must be inspected every year. And these people I'm talking about, who could become annual authorized nautical inspectors, could eventually be trained to inspect those 1,600 ships. It ain't far-fetched. I've been doing it now. Theo Devaney been doing it forever. I was doing it when I was at the BMA, and I can still do it. And yes, we treat people from the Defense Force initially. But we were positioned and determined enough to prepare ourselves to be able to do it. But that's on our own volition. When is the BMA, the entity in the Bahamas that is responsible for creating and expanding opportunities for Bahamians in the maritime sector, gonna do what they're supposed to be doing as far as helping Bahamians to be exposed in these areas? When? With that, I conclude. We're fresh out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Maritime Matters. Talk Maritime. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer for the night was Mr. Craig Gibson. We covered quite a topics. If you want to hear the show again, you can hit us up on YouTube, Maritime Matters Bahamas. The show will be uploaded along with all our other shows over the past 3 years. I say goodnight to my good old Annie Mae. I say, fare thee well, my brother. Continue to recover well, Mr. Wendell Clark. I say thank you, my dear listener. Nobody calling tonight, but I understand. I was a little biggity tonight. You didn't want to call me tonight. I think I was a little hot, right? So I can appreciate that, and just continue to listen, because some of these things you have to really pour it on, eh? And so with that, as always, I say to you, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 tick. Out.
I've had nothing to live for. Look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. This 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Love 90. Making the difference. It's a great feeling.